Marvel and the MCU made some big announcements when it comes to the Avengers Doomsday. And what is it you say? Well, that they've essentially hired every single celebrity in the history of Hollywood. Seriously, they could have come out and said that they had signed John Wayne, and I would have believed it. But there are still a few Marvel superstars who remain off the list. Today, we'll tell you what this is going to cost Marvel and why Disney might not be feeling bliss. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Pro Channel. Happy Thursday night. We are hoping you're feeling all right, and we are coming to you with the latest story when it comes to Marvel and how much they must be spending and what the runtime will likely be for Avengers Doomsday, a movie that is going to tempt us with the most bloat we've ever seen at the box office ever. Will it save the day? And what is the way they're going to convince you to see it no matter what? We've got answers, a panel of excellence, and we're starting right now. Here's what we have. This is out of Marvel Entertainment. We're going to silence it because, well, it features music that is likely copyrighted and would get us in trouble, even despite the fact that we're trying to disseminate it for Disney. We're trying to share it out. And surely this trailer will not get us. It's not even part of the movie. But Vanessa Kirby, Anthony Mackie, he did so well just so short ago. Sebastian Stan, who I hear is a politician now. Letitia Wright. Folks, are you starting to see a pattern here? Paul Rudd. Okay, well, people will go tune into that. Wyatt Russell. Then you have, and by the way, this was played as the way to get people enthused. Yeah. Enthused for Avengers Doomsday. It keeps going. Simu Liu, the Boba Man. Oh. Florence Pugh, who is about to do what few have ever done before with a flop on Thunderbolts. Then we've got the Beast, or is it Frasier? I'm not sure. Danny Ramirez, such a star in the most recent film. Joseph Quinn, I've seen Stranger Things. I like him better than David Harbour, I'll tell you that. Winston Duke is back from Black Panther. And we're waiting, folks. We're waiting. Okay, Loki. Now that's more like it. Mm-hmm. Patrick Stewart. There's the big X-Men announcement. Ian McKellen. Well, that was inevitable once we saw that. Alan Cumming. There's the surprise. Rebecca. That's a surprise too. James Marston. Now hold on. We're going to pause right there. Can I pause it? And Channing, by the way, that's a surprise. Let me throw this to the panel before we go any further. And Pedro Pascal, who is obligatory to every film in Hollywood these days,
except for the Odyssey.
Yes, well, he just couldn't do it. He had a scheduling conflict being in every other film. Let me throw this out there too. The panel, let's start here and we'll come back to the remainder of the reveal. If they are going to put Cyclops, Professor X, and Magneto in this movie, there is no way on God's green earth that Hugh Jackman doesn't show up as Wolverine. There's no way. So let's start though. He's going to get a chair. Listen, and spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. Guess who else doesn't get a chair? Tom Spiderman Holland. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm here to tell you, both of those guys are in this movie. They are not making an Avengers film that they need it to relaunch the MCU. They have to recapture things. If this fails, it is devastating to all of their plans, period. And they want us to believe that they're not going to send in Hugh Jackman and Spider-Man? Think again. Panel, what say you? And then we'll get to the rest of the reveals.
I was pretty disappointed when I saw the final list right here because we were hearing all kinds of people, but I mean, no Guardians of the Galaxy whatsoever. No Bradley Cooper, Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Karen Gillan, no Palm, Clementif, I believe, Mantis there. No Chris Evans, no Scarlett Johansson, no Mark Ruffalo, no Hulk. What is going on there? No She-Hulk as well. No Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye. He's not in here.
They're all in it. They're all going to be in it.
They'll all be in it. No, I mean, what I think is funny is just like they think about how much they owe now to Sony and to 20th Century Fox. Like after having to make a movie that was supposedly like a send-off in Deadpool and Wolverine to 20th Century Fox, and all they're admitting now is they have to go back to the well and rely on all those characters again because they were never able to integrate them properly before because they were still telling the first three phases, and now they're going to rely on all of them because nobody, for some reason, is ever going to be excited about Simu Liu being in anything.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, he'll do great with that whole Boba controversy. He always says things wise. By the way, he is Marvel's version of Zegler. But I'll tell you this, guys, we saw proof positive, I think, that Nightcrawler, an older Nightcrawler, is going to be in this film.
Right.
Here's what I hope for. I hope that by the end of the movie, Nightcrawler takes everybody that we want to be in the MCU going forward. He gets all of them together and he's like, we're going to teleport out of this thing. We're done with this. We're going back to whatever it was that was working, and we're out of this. Come on, Nightcrawler. Teleport them out of wokeism. We beg of you. Hey, guys, here's the question, though, before we go to those next reveals.
Mm-hmm.
If you removed some of these names, it would be a far better film. You don't have to have Shang-Chi. You don't have to have anybody from the Thunderbolts. You don't have to have anybody from the spinoffs of Black Widow. None of that is necessary. And when you see that they're bringing in the X-Men, that is a story all of its own that deserves its own movie. They don't need to strap this onto the Avengers and reduce this film. They just need to stick with one big storyline, and that is, if you're going to bring the X-Men in and they're going to fight Doctor Doom, let's do it. We don't need to bloat the box office effort with all of these other characters, unless they're going to be 5-minute cameos where they get snapped out.
I mean, I remember like when they were doing this for Infinity War, it's going to be battle scenes at the end. That's all going to be shot overhead with CGI and drones, and it's going to be a bunch of cameos at the end of the movie. There is no way to integrate that many people into a cohesive story that's actually going to raise stakes for any amount of people, because you're telling too many stories at once. It's not possible.
Way too many stories.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, half the movie is going to be them trying to explain why all of a sudden Dr. Doom's going to look like Tony Stark and how they're going to retcon Iron Man back to coming alive. There's literally too many cooks in the kitchen here. Like, back in the days of the comic books, you know, you could at least have 5 different spinoffs or range for 50 issues if you got that. This, you have to condense it to 3 hours because the audience's bladder is only so big. Like, guys, you can't fit all this junk into one movie. Can someone tell Feige that?
Well, so one side of this is the budget. The other is the runtime. Like, even if these people get 5-minute cameos, you're talking about a runtime easily in excess of 3 hours. The budget, though, we'll get into that in just a moment. Let's go back now to the remainder of the chairs, and there is Pedro. He's just so fantastic in this, I hear. We've got RDJ. There's the final big reveal, folks. And this is what they're banking everything on.
Yep.
RDJ gets up, looks back, and walks off the screen, and this is the big reveal. The problem is we already knew that RDJ was in this. So there's no point in that being the big reveal. If this was, whatever the big reveal was going to be, if they wanted to get people excited, that needed to be Patrick Stewart in the chair as Professor X at the end. That's how you do it. They still haven't got this thing figured out yet.
That's the problem. We've already seen Patrick Stewart incorporated a little bit, at least with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So even that is kind of out of the bag right here. So I think maybe Hugh Jackman sitting in there would have been really something. I think that would have turned a lot of heads.
What about Magneto? What if Magneto's there smiling at the end and gives a nod and a wink, and that's the end of it?
That's not bad. That's pretty good too.
They should have gotten Fassbender too, then, just in case this movie goes too long into production. Like,
that's right. Pull them all in. Days of Future Past, everything, every villain ever. Let's do it again. All right, guys. Here's my worry. My worry is that this is Age of Ultron, and they can't afford Age of Ultron.
Right.
They need this to be. They gotta have a grand slam, because we've already seen Brave New World not be so brave at the box office. We're probably going to see Thunderbolts do the same thing. Fantastic Four, the cards are still out there, not sure, but I would lean more negative than positive, and I don't like to be that way. And what that means is you've had 3 strikes going into an Avengers film that needs to save the day. Panel, what's the right way? What's the right way for them to do this? What did you want to see if they're going to redeem the MCU?
Oof. Well, we're already seeing a couple of these things being laid, right? So they brought back Robert Downey Jr., which was a good call, but apparently he insisted that the Russo brothers also come back, in which I believe they insisted that Stephen McFeely come back in order to write this thing. So we've got a couple of cooks that we know have produced some really great gold for the Marvel MCU previously. The problem, though, is that, well, when you look at Infinity War and Endgame, you know, there were a lot of Avengers that people were excited to see. When I'm looking at these shares, I'm seeing a lot of people that I don't think people are necessarily that interested in seeing, and a lot of people missing that would have otherwise gotten them in. So the question really is how good can this film be on its own to really attract people? I mean, this thing's going to have to stand on its own because this isn't going to be propped up by the films that came before it. It's just not.
There's no emotional through line. So if you remember in the trailers to Infinity War, I don't even remember the Endgame trailers as much, but to Infinity War, Tony Stark was the through line through most of that. And they had the addition of Captain America and his story to bring you emotionally all the way from the beginning to the end. And there's no actor. I mean, they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. unless they're trying to redeem him or restore another version of Tony Stark. I don't see any actor, at least not on that list, that can do that, because if we're talking the 20th Century Fox films, that's not going to work because they're not technically, I mean, they're connected, but they're not connected, right? It reeks of corporate adding after the fact. There isn't an actor on that list. Is it supposed to be Anthony Mackie? Because he wasn't able to do that in the last few films. I don't know if there's anyone on that list that really carries emotional resonance for people. It has to be Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It's the only possible one.
I've got a different take. There's one thing I think they need to do to make this movie work, and there's one big fear that I have about it besides the cast. The thing they have to do is they have to center this on Doom, and I think that the way that you open this thing is in Latveria. You've got to show the grandeur of this European nation that is founded by this heir to Teutonic knights, and show what Latveria is like. You've got to spend some time there before you really get into the threat that Doom is going to pose. And my guess is that there's going to be a political storyline here of some kind, and of how Doom is either a threat to his neighbors or is appearing not to be a threat to his neighbors, and there will be a reveal around that in the beginning. My fear for this thing is I haven't seen any evidence for a while that they have been able to keep their special effects work up to snuff. And that's becoming a gigantic problem. And part of it is pipelining. Part of it is just time to be able to produce what they need. I don't know if there is just a general lack of skill going on now, of processing time, or if it's just slapdash production. But they've got to get that problem solved, because otherwise your movie's going to come up looking cheap.
Are you advocating for the return of Victoria Alonso? Is that right now? That's a bad joke right there.
I mean, that point is actually really good. That point is actually really good, because similar to what they did in Infinity War was make that about Thanos, right? So they gave him the lion's share of that film to allow you. I mean, we'd already seen him in so many past credit scene or post credit scenes, but he got the lion's share of the character development in that film. But then you get back into the fact that it's a part one of a part two. And people will come back for part two when you have 3 phases of Avengers movies. I don't know if the same thing is going to work for something like this when they're looking at half these actors and they're like, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah. The bulk of the movie is going to be taken up by the B team, and no one cares about the B team. So this kind of stinks of desperation. I love Patrick Stewart, Olivia McKellen, but the storyline's been beaten to death. We need to be moving forward with these movies, and it just seems like we're stuck in the past because there was no path forward. And you ended the trailer with RDJ. Great, we saw him. Most of the fans, especially if you're a comic fan, are still very irritated with the fact that he is playing Dr. Doom. So you probably should have closed out with one of the 3 Spider-Men, if not all 3 of them together, because that's the only thing I could think of that would have gotten anybody even remotely excited for this. This trailer kind of landed with a thud. So I think it kind of, we're not off to a good start. Well, let me ask you this. The strategy may be to Rise of Skywalker this thing and make it be known to the public that this is the grand farewell to a great many of the Fox X-Men characters and the actors behind them. So if they make this be the ultimate last send-off for Magneto and Professor X as they have been portrayed, then that might be how they go for the nostalgia points to get people to go to the theaters, just to say, well, I've watched these characters since the 90s. I'm going to be there for the end. That's one thing. The other thing is, listen, if they have any sense in their heads, the third act, when everybody's in trouble, is going to feature Jeremy Renner coming into the stage. Everybody knows what he's been through. And I'm not talking about Rachel Zegler attacking him. I'm talking about snowplows. Everybody knows what he's been through. And you talking about applause that they would get for Jeremy Renner to come back and be there. That's why some of these people can't have chairs, right? There has to be, they've got to have the reveals. And so when people say to me, well, Wesley Snipes doesn't have a chair, but Wesley Snipes doesn't have one, but Channing does. It's like, Channing is a big reveal. I don't know if he's going to have 5 minutes, 10 minutes or what, but if they're going to put Snipes in it, they're not going to tell you right now, but I guarantee you we're going to get Spidey and Wolverine. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so here's the question panel. Let's talk budget for a minute. We watched all those names go by. I think that RDJ is going to be paid something like $90 million for the two combined. Okay, how much is it costing to get all of these people to come back and do these roles again? Like, what are we talking? Even before we get into the CGI and the production effects, just think about the cost for these actors. I mean, we've got like 30 to 40 actors who require serious change to get them to be there. Yeah. So what do you guys think? What kind of numbers are we talking? Is this thing going to be $500 million in production, 600 million, 700 million in production? Are they getting them back for Cracker Jacks? Lauren, what say you?
If I had to guess, they're going to be paying them not as much, actually. I think that they're probably making deals that have to do with production deals for other movies, because I don't think that they have the cash to pay them what they've had on the previous movies, especially if many of these are cameos. And I don't think that they're going to be confident enough to take points on the back end. So instead, maybe what they do is bargain to let them do some personal project that they want to do, or some other type of production deal where they have multiple movies that they have going into the future.
From what we understand, the Russo brothers also revealed that they had, I guess, like baseball cards made out with all of the contracts and how many movies were left on people's contracts before actually utilizing them in the story. And that's how they organized it. When I hear something like that, it looks like I think they're going to benefit a lot from multi-picture deals that some of these stars have signed on to. Maybe that doesn't like incorporate somebody like Channing Tatum, for example. Maybe you do have to pay him separately. But I think a lot of these people, why we're getting so many B squad guys is because they don't have the money for the A-list guys that should be seen with having chairs on this this trailer here.
Let me give you a cynical take on why we have so many Z-tier characters and actors. And I apologize. There's some of these individuals, I really like them, you know.
There's a lot of actors on there that I really like. They're just not memorable in superhero roles.
Well, look, tell me what you guys think about this. And I'm going to step out on a limb a little bit. If we go back to the Fox characters, they're a little pasty. Everybody with me? Everybody thinking about this? They're a little bit pasty and they're a little bit male. I know, don't hold the wieners against them, but that's what they are. Folks, listen, I think that we had so many Z-tier. I'm sorry, Vash. I apologize. I had to do it. Listen, it's an anatomy explanation for those up there. 10 years ago, you didn't have to go there, but now you have to explain it to the people. You got
now I got to play this one.
Boys and girls.
Yes, folks, we only have high-class stuff on this show.
Amen. PhDs in anatomy right here. Okay, listen, folks. The legacy characters are pale and male. All right. What do we know about Disney? Up until about 6 months ago, Disney was very interested in quotas to make sure they had the ratios right. I don't think that's changed necessarily. And I think the reason, right or wrong, and we'll hand it to the panel to decide, I think the reason for all of these Z-tier characters is because they're going to try to balance that out. And the characters that they would have liked to have done this with didn't work. They want Brie Larson. They want Iman Vellani. They want the Young Avengers. They didn't get any traction with them, and they don't have the opportunity to take a chance. So they may make cameos as well, right? I don't know. And I think it's a shame if Iman Vellani does it. She's great as Miss Marvel, even if she wasn't given anything. Guys, what do you think about it? They're going to try to fix those ratios using the Z-list characters and actors.
I'm kind of surprised though that they haven't done more towards that end. Like none of the Marvel's characters in here, like Monica Rambeau, for example, Miss Marvel, Brie Larson is a big omission right there. Benedict Wong isn't in here either. Don Cheadle. I mean, some of these names, Elizabeth Olsen, some of these names would have been just, insert and you would have filled out your quotas. But to do that with B tier characters, I don't know. It just feels, it feels ungenuine for one, but two, I don't know if it's going to work out all that well.
Yeah.
I've got a theory for you. I don't know if it'll be this movie or the next one, but I am betting that we're going to see Miles Morales.
Oh,
okay.
Live action.
Miles. Yeah, do we get live action or animated? Because we're in the multiverse, so maybe animated Miles shows up.
Perhaps we might even see a situation where all of our veteran heroes, like they're in like a shuttle or something like that, crashes on a planet. They're facing the villain. They all look like, they're royally screwed. And then it's up to the fresh new characters and the Z-listers to come say that. And maybe Miles will be the head of that. They might pull hey, we need these men just can't get the job done. We need these Z-listers to come in and save the day with their feminism powers. And I don't know.
Well, they're going to switch that around if they know it's good for them. They're going to have the Z-list characters need the help of the A-list characters.
Well, how about this? Try this on for size. And Kevin, let me get your thoughts on it. I don't think they have to go to Z-list. And maybe they're just holding this for the sake of having it be a surprise. But Halle Berry as Storm. What? Like, do that. Yep. If you had her at the end of the chairs, and then you don't have to go with these Z-list characters to try to fill this out and fit your quota. There's actually a deep roster, especially with the X-Men, that you can have fantastic characters of various backgrounds. So
Jessica Alba show up? Would Jessica Alba show up?
Well, the question is, what's the contractual negotiation like there? How much do the 40-somethings want who were, and I think Miss Berry's like, she's getting close to 60 probably, but she still looks better than I do. Kevin?
Can attest, this is true.
Dang!
Lauren still is a dapper looking fellow, though. There's no doubt about it. Kevin, unmutify and let us know what you think.
Sorry, the cat walked by, muted me. I think as we know, it's Halle Berry still looks like she's 20 because it don't crack. But no, you're right. If they do this right, they have a lot of A-lister adjacent cameos that they can use to member bury themselves over the finish line of the first movie. The problem is going to be that you've got this big bloated monster and you broke this up into two parts. So I kind of have to wonder, we left off some big names again, Spider-Man, Chris Evans, blah, blah, blah. I have to wonder if we're going to do like a weird, all your old school Avengers show up with goatees to explain the evil Iron Man thing. And
Evan, I don't want to see Halle Berry with a goatee. I don't want to see that.
Oh, that's right.
I'm sorry, Nolan. You'll deal with the multiverse and you'll like it.
Could they not really have finally given like Sebastian Stan as Bucky like a really memorable story in this movie if they weren't going to waste him on the Thunderbolts, which also this movie now destroys the stakes of the Thunderbolts because all of those names are on there.
Right. You'll get behind Senator Bucky and you'll like it because that's as good as it's going to get.
We should just call the Thunderbolts. Yes, everybody, Taskmaster is going to die. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, confirmed. All right, well, guys, before we wrap this segment up, let me ask this. I think that we're probably looking at a film that's going to need $2 billion to break even. And that's monumental, but it's also something that they're probably estimating that for Marvel is achievable. The problem here is if you base the success of this off of Endgame, I think that's a very precarious position to take because Marvel is not in the same place. They need this to win in a bad way because if it doesn't win, Marvel is going to be like Star Wars. And I don't even know which one's worse at that point, right? Because at least Star Wars has The Mandalorian coming out, and that movie might do well. Lauren's shaking it. Okay, Lauren, get in. Before we even weigh in, who's in a worse spot right now, Marvel or Star Wars?
I think Star Wars is. I think Marvel still has the longest of shots. But if they pulled something off, if they handled Doom correctly, now I don't think RDJ is the right way to go with this, but if they handled Doom correctly, you can get a revival there. They are completely unwilling to chuck the sequel trilogy, and if they're not willing to do that, they've crippled the brand permanently.
Do you think if Doomsday comes out and is not like the big box office success that maybe they quite need or anticipate, do you think it's okay if only because Secret Wars is coming out later, like an Infinity War Endgame thing, where it's like, we'll leave them on such a cliffhanger, they'll come back in, see it, and we'll make our money back on the back end there. Is that a scenario that Kevin's shaking his head there? Go ahead.
Goodwill, goodwill is a very strong and fragile thing all at the same time. When you have it, it can take a lot, but once you lose it, you're not really ever going to get it back. And people have lost their goodwill at Marvel. So I'm a nerd from straight out the womb, and nothing here gave me the warm fuzzies. And I want to like this. I do. I really do. I want to be excited about this. If this was 2015, I probably would have been screaming. You would have heard me screaming from whatever institution you were standing in. You would have heard my geeky shrilly voice screaming. Now I'm like, all right, whatever.
I mean, it's
and
not.
I
Just
legit
Goodwill.
thought you were about to go on a tangent about Goodwill, as in like the thrift store, and that's where this movie's going to end up in a few years if they don't stick the landing. So I get you there.
$5 bid, baby.
It's not even just Goodwill, guys. It's think about the budget for the last Mission Impossible movie and the amount they lost on Dead Reckoning, and now they've announced like a $400 million budget for the next one, and it's not going to make that money back. And I want it to do well. Tom Cruise has infinitely more goodwill than all of these people, and he's not going to make his money back on that one.
Well, and that's a fantastic point, because we love the Mission Impossible movies, right? I want to get another Top Gun movie. I'd love to get a third one before it's too late. We loved Marvel for 3 phases. All of us here, I bet, loved those movies. It's not as if we're here simply to hate, but we're looking at this and we're saying, listen, it is now getting to the point that if they don't redeem this thing fast, the kids aren't going to remember when Marvel was a big deal. Like, that's going to be something that was of a generation past. It's getting to the point now where it's been 5 years. It's going to be 6 years when this film comes out since Marvel was a big deal. How long can that go before kids are like, oh, well, that whole Avengers thing, that was what you guys used to play with. That's not what we do now.
Well, it's also that they have interrupted the virtuous cycle, the same thing that they did with Star Wars. It's like they've killed the comics industry. Now, one advantage that the comics have is that you've got 100 years of history there that you can reprint. But how many people are still reading? That's the real question. Most of the people are getting their media from either the movies or the games. And if the foundational stone that you're using to learn about these characters is now crippled, suddenly those things aren't cool anymore. And that's how an evergreen property dies.
Well, Lauren hit it right on the head. The generational capture moment, both Marvel and DC have lost it. Both brands have been trash for the better part of 15 years. And when you look at the majority of these billion-dollar movies, it didn't translate to the books. But what wasn't working in the books has found a way to translate itself to the movies. And so you got the old dogs like me who are like, ugh, I don't want to deal with this. And if I can't pass it down to my kids, and my kids are already lukewarm about it to begin with, you're stuck. And we're starting to see the signs of this in how these movies are performing.
All right, folks. Well, we're thinking right now that there's going to be plenty more of announcements. The budget is bloating with every single one of those, and it could be a movie from the Walt Disney Company that needs $2 billion to break even. We'll try to get the best info we can over the future coming months. I'll let you know what it's going to be, but this one's going to be expensive, and they're betting the farm on it. It is such fun getting to spend time together, folks, but we have come to the end of yet another video. Well, that makes the mainstream scratch their heads, pull their hair out, and wonder, how is it we continue to do what we do? But you know what we do this for? It's for you. To keep bringing all the knowledge of entertainment, explaining what's going on in Hollyweird each and every day. And you can help us continue on that way by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, Click it, stick it to those algorithms. It's the notification bell. Share this out on your favorite social media platforms, and we would love to have you drop a comment right on down below. Share your thoughts because, well, your thoughts truly do matter, and we mean it. As we get ready to say goodbye, we end with the common refrain. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.